day to forget. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to the Matchday Vlogs YouTube channel. As always, please remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe because it really does make a difference to the channel. We're here live at St Mary's, ready for the Southampton women's game, kicking off against Blackburn, their first home game of the season. But before that, we want to jump on here live and talk to everyone about what happened yesterday in the men's fixture up in the northeast of the country. A rather forgettable display, defensive frailties all over the place, a couple of inclusions that perhaps were a little bit premature in terms of starting in the starting 11. But it kind of started quite badly. I got excited from that first corner. I was like, great, we got a corner early on. This is great. Adam Armstrong's just like pressed and got us up, and then went wrong from there. It went wrong from there.
Yeah, it was pretty much the best part of the game for us really was the opening 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Then that 20 minutes after we conceded the second goal. So that was kind of when the game really kicked off for us.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was the upsides from the game for me is that when I looked at that team sheet, I was like, this isn't our starting 11 this year. It's still a bit of a mixed match.
Right.
There's still players to come back and get fit, and there's players that have come in quite late in the transfer window. So it's not the full team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about defensive frailties, but Holgate. Do you think he's going to be the first choice of starting centre backs?
I mean, obviously, there's something that Russell Martin's seen in him, and I think that but in terms of what my Evertonian fan friends have been saying about Mason Holgate, they haven't had many great things to say about him. But to have the kind of mistakes that he made, he should know those kind of things.
They were lazy mistakes, they were foolish mistakes. And when you see sort of like Jan screaming at him, I think what you don't want is for then Jan to be like, oh my God, this is the same as last season once again, where I'm screaming at my partner to get back and get into position. Yeah. And
you can see Bednarek's reaction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty telling of what that game was like. And you keep in mind Holgate's only been training with the team a week.
Yeah.
So he still has to get up to scratch as well. So you can't put the blame squarely at his door.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whole team, but yeah, it was pretty bad in every sense of the word.
It was a rough watch. And I think also, Bazunu got he took a lot of the heat. And I think it's kind of unfair. I mean, that goal, the third goal that came from miles out, kind of went under his hand, but he did see it late. So I forgive him for those kind of things. But a defense is just leaving him so exposed. Yeah. I just think, okay, he's had a few questionable near post misses, but our defense is doing him no favors whatsoever.
I saw like a good highlight reel today of like all the goals that we've conceded this season. And I would honestly say maybe two of them, I'm like, probably should have done better there. But even then, it's like, well, they shouldn't have been allowed to shoot in that position anyway.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I was one of Baz's biggest critics in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And I do still kind of think that we should have gotten another goalkeeper in to push him, because when we're looking at we are right now, okay, it's not his fault, but at a certain point, when does that just hurt his momentum anyway? When does that just start crippling in how we perform? So to have a secure backup would have been great.
Yeah.
But, Russ is right. There is a lot of good keeper in there. He's been amazing in playing along the back four. It is a back five with him in there.
Mm-hmm.
And he has just been kind of done dirty quite a lot this season in certain positions. But when he's been called upon, I actually think he's made some great saves. And he's been really dominant in his own box, which is kind of what I was fearful of at the end of last season.
Yeah.
But I do see him scrambling across his line a lot of time. His position is better than it was last season, but it's still getting there. But he's not to be blamed, especially not for yesterday.
Yeah, sure. No, I think, and there are many more games to play. I mean, I think we can all kind of lose our minds a little bit in terms of like, oh my goodness, we just got smashed 5-0 by perhaps a promotion rival. But they have been severely depleted and they don't have an out-and-out striker. So for them to score 5 with basically children on the pitch, I mean, the guy that's got the fifth.
It's one of those things. It's one of those beautiful, one of those classic football games where the day before we were taking half their squad. In the end, we took their best striker.
Yeah.
And then the next day we lose 5-0 to them.
Yeah.
Because that's football and it's just bittersweet like that. And that's the way it goes. And, at the Stadium of Light as well, difficult place to go for such a young squad as well.
Yeah.
It's a big learning curve. I'm just happy it's happened at this point of the season. Yeah. We can learn from it and we can go into the next few games thinking, right, this needs to be sorted out. My only slight worry is the fact that if you talk to Swansea fans, Don's fans, they all tell you Russell Martin's teams are exciting to watch, but they lack at the back a little bit.
Very,
And
very.
that's a little bit scary to think about. But I think he has the means here. And honest to God, I look at the centre backs that we've got available to him. I think it's going to be okay. It's just sorting out the combinations and getting them in sync with each other.
Yeah, no, there is that. And let's not forget, we had a transfer window slammed shut less than 13 hours before kickoff. So with all the stuff that was going on, we weren't sure whether Shea Adams was going to be staying at the club. We weren't sure. Kyle Peters, to a certain extent, Silamana, there were plenty of players who perhaps travelled. I mean, our new defender, was it Taylor Harwood Bellis?
Howard Bellis, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean. In the bench announced the morning before how together is he? I know he's amazing for Burnley last season. Probably in reality, at the end of the transfer, maybe the signing I'm most excited about.
Oh yeah,
especially because of the obligation to buy if we go up. I think he's going to be
100%
immense for us.
And,
so that's the. Also, you think like we started Mara on the right yesterday. Is that really going to happen a lot this season? I don't think so.
No,
I think once you get Sulemana in there, I think once you get Ryan Fraser up to full force, I just don't think he's starting that position. And I also think because of that sort of team yesterday that he had to put out Adam Armstrong in that number 9 position again, when bring him back and drop him into that zone.
Yeah, it will make perfect sense. I mean, I think in an ideal scenario, perhaps that fixture being played a week later than it had, we definitely would have seen Shea starting up top, and we wouldn't have been. It just felt like there was also a ton of space deep on our flanks. I mean, the fact that we allowed so many balls to come into the box and so many easy crosses and so many cutting in runs, it was just absolutely shocking. Joe's better come up here. We'll be back on top form after the break, although Friday nights at home to Leicester do trigger some interesting memories. Kind of regret reading that out. I didn't read the last
one. You weren't there. You don't know that pain.
I was on the back of an inflated unicorn enjoying the Greek sunshine. Enough about me.
But let's be fair, those other results yesterday for Leicester and Leeds.
Yeah, this is it.
Do us massive favours. It's not in the end of the game, not actually that bad apart from goal difference.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is it. It's effectively, if we came up yesterday with a point, we would have been super happy. Well, it's only 1 point then, isn't it? And I think that was when we went 3-0 down. It was a case of, well, that's the best we can hope for now. So we're just, we move on, but we also acknowledge the fact that we haven't had a clean sheet since March 5th, and that for me is a big worry. I mean, I've seen some clinical football here last Saturday against QPR, but again, we were caught at the back on a couple of occasions where a better side would have put us to bed.
The way to look at it is that in the last 2 years, let's say specifically 2 years since that Aston Villa game, we've had a team that doesn't have a good attack, doesn't have a good midfield, and doesn't have a good defense, and doesn't have a good goalkeeper. And I now think we're in a position where we've got a good attack.
Yeah,
we've got a pretty solid midfield. Defense is leaky, but mainly down the middle, down the wings, it's fine.
Yeah.
And goalkeeper is goalkeeper, and we can go on about that argument forever. But I do think we're so much better. It's just sorting that back line out.
Yeah,
just sorting out. It's a shame that we won't have Jack back till Christmas now. That's pretty much sounds like it.
Yeah, his injury not as bad as expected,
no.
But still 7 or 8 games. So I do generally fear what they thought was going to happen to poor Jack Stevens initially, but that's for another story, no doubt. But yeah, going to the international break, it is disappointing. We played 5 games, we got 10 points. That ain't bad, is it?
It's not. I mean, if you were to start this season off, say, it's, unbeaten in August.
Yeah.
First loss in September, you'd be like, okay, you wouldn't have wanted it to be as bad as it was.
Yeah.
But there's kind of a part of me that thinks, you lose a game 1-0, you don't change too much.
No.
You don't change too much because you're like, well, it's not that bad a result. It's 1-0, but it's 5. You're like, right, and they must really bring into attention what this is.
Yeah. I think we generally knew what was wrong immediately after the second goal. And I think it was just a case of padding stations, Isaac making another comment here. You shut off at 3-0. You should never lose 5-0. We've lost heavily before, so we know you shouldn't. But when you're playing to a certain system and you're staying focused to that system, unfortunately, you can be found lacking. If one person's having a bad game, you may as well be down to 8 players.
That is always the big fear. I mean, we said it when Russell came in, switching from pressing football to a possession-based game
Mm.
is all well and good as long as you still have you got the adaptability to changing the game, and that's something that was even asked at the fan forum. It's always asked when a manager comes in having a style,
Right.
and that was a little bit worrying yesterday. It's like, okay, well, you've conceded, but you didn't switch the tap off either. We kept on conceding.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a big number like we've seen before, but
we've seen a lot of that number in the chat section. By the way,
you still couldn't do it. And let's be honest, if Sunderland were more, if they were more on target, if they were more clinical, they probably should have been 7 or 8 or even 9.
Yeah.
So
they had a great game though.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they had a great game, but I still think it was given to them, and the fact that we couldn't shut the shop down is worrying.
Yeah.
And we stuck to a system and stuck to a game plan. And let's be fair, in those moments on the ball, it looked like we could have done something, and they looked like a decent team. But it's just like, well, you still can shut off them conceding more. So worrying in that sense that managers have their styles and they like to stick with their styles no matter what, stick to the game plan.
Yeah.
And I agree, if they had stuck to the game plan straight away, probably wouldn't have conceded those goals.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the end, they did.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm being too generous. I'm just trying to be positive. And I think, with all the noise that was been going on for the last, effectively, since Russell Martin has taken charge, he's had a lot to contend with. But, there is a lot of work to do. I'm not naive on that regard. But, let's just not lose our minds. It was a very, very bad performance. We move on. We recalibrate and we just get things going. But there it is. Anyway, we are going to get on to more important matters here today. For Southampton women's versus Blackburn women's. So join us on the live watch along there. And as always, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you have any more thoughts and comments on yesterday's game against Sunderland, stick them in the comment section. We'll keep the conversation going that way. And we will catch you very, very shortly on the watch along coming up very, very soon. All right. As always, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. All right. See ya.